Okay, very excited for this episode. Derek, thank you so much to be here. This is one of these episodes that I always thought I really want to make it. I have so many people and so many conversation about this topic that to have somebody physically from a film commission, for me, it's really unbelievable. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, I appreciate it.
So let's start. First of all, let's start with an introduction of who you are, your background, and how do you end up in the Film Commission, and what do you do in the Film Commission?
Sure. So my name's Derek Mellus. I'm the production manager for the Utah Film Commission. The Utah Film Commission is, we're a small team of 5. We have our director, Virginia Pierce. There's Christina Martin that does our marketing and communications. Melissa Jackson does all of our admin, office management stuff, and then Carly Mahas, who's my colleague. She's my production coordinator. I came into the Film Commission through film, actually, which is kind of rare. Usually it's a government position. We're directly under the Governor's Office of Economic Development, or Economic Opportunity now, here in Utah, directly under the Office of Tourism, and which a lot of film commissions are. I was working in the film industry. I started in kind of late, I think it was in my late 20s. Wanted to be an artist, fell into the art and construction departments in film, and through a friend fell into the locations department, where I kind of found my niche. And I did locations for a few different movies and a television series called Everwood for a while that shot I want to say 80-something episodes here in the state. And then I got a call from the Film Commission just to come in and cover for, they used to have a location scout in the office, and a guy by the name of Tommy Woodard, who's actually still works in the film industry as a location scout, came in to cover for him. And during that time, the director left to go join the North Carolina Film Commission and take over that, and the person whose position I'm in now, Marshall Moore, became the director.
I love it.
So,
and what do you do exactly right now for the Utah?
Yeah, so my role as the production manager is I'm usually the first line of offense, if you will, for the Film Commission. When a film project reaches out and they're considering filming in Utah, they might be thinking of Canada or New Mexico or some other state, one of the western parts of the United States. They'll reach out to us. A lot of times I'll just kind of find out when they're thinking of filming, get an idea of what type of project it is. Sometimes if it's a commercial, I might have them send me a lookbook, or a pitch deck, and then most of what I do is location driven. But when it comes to larger feature films or studio features or television series, usually the first question is about incentives, which we also do at the Film Commission. So, but yeah, my role is to convince people to film here, help them find resources while they're here, that sort of thing. So.
And what the Film Commission in general does day by day.
Yeah. So a lot of that. We deal with, our office specifically, we have a crew directory, for instance. We have, anybody that works in the film industry, if you can think of a position in film, they can sign up as long as they have a verifiable credit through a source like IMDb. They can sign up with our crew directory, list themselves, post a resume. We have a support services directory, so anything from hotels to car rentals to film-specific equipment like grip and electric or camera equipment, companies can register in there. We maintain that. We maintain a location library, which is really key for what I do.
Is that location library public? Sorry to interrupt.
It is, yes, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it's on the website. You can go on there. You can search anything from, like a cabin in the woods or diner or church or school or whatever it is you need. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's a great resource. In fact, a lot of what my coworker Carly does and what I do when she's not around is respond to requests that we get through the location library of homeowners, or people that are reaching out to about specific locations and need the contact information for those locations.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Is that something that every single film commission in the United States has, or you guys and few others maybe, or just you?
That's a great question. I think we're one of the more established film commissions, and the service that we use called Real Scout. I know a lot of film commissions, especially like on the state level, province level, that those larger film commissions utilize that same service or similar services. We, I wouldn't say every one does, but yeah, it's definitely a key thing to what we do.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
On this set,
Yeah.
what is in my mind is, let's say that I am a young filmmaker.
Okay.
So today we can make movies with any kind of budget.
Correct.
And doesn't mean that is a bad movie. Today, a very low budget can
yeah.
actually be a fantastic movie, right?
Good
Because it's
Tangerine
so
or
easy,
some of the others.
so
Yeah.
easy to make this movie. Let's say that I'm gonna start looking for the Utah Film Commission
Mm-hmm.
website. In the website, some locations that I really like,
Mm-hmm.
and I just want to film there 3 or 4 scenes, and then the rest, whatever I come from, like Los Angeles, let's say.
Sure.
So I contact you guys and say, hey, I really love these locations. How do I do next?
Yeah.
What are the questions that they need to say? Do they need to say, hey, it's a $20,000 budget, by the way, we don't have a lot of money, or
Sure.
it's $200,000 budget, or is a documentary, is an horror film, if you guys with horror need to touch some other
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
What a filmmaker need to do after this question of how do I film in this location?
Sure. Yeah. So what we would do would be to reach out to via email, most likely, and just say, hey, we'd love to hear more about your project. If it's somebody we're completely unfamiliar with, there are some prompts that they answer in their request for the contact information.
Right. And I want to ask you one
sure.
more thing, just because of I know these students, this young filmmaker, not to scare them, but you guys want to know more about the project, because it's not because they try to investigate of something that you're doing wrong. It's just because you need more information about the project, because
to see how else we can help, really.
That's right.
Yeah. And I wouldn't suggest like a fine dining restaurant to somebody that I know they're going to have to pay a lot for business loss, for instance, if I know they have no budget. Although there are ways to gain access to locations without necessarily having to pay money. We recommend to students all the time, maybe approach them and say, hey, you need new photos for your website, or you need a new website, or if there's something that you want to help them with on social media, for instance, in lieu of payment.
He approach you, he send you an email, you guys respond back and ask for more information.
More information. Yeah. We have a form that they would fill out that gets us pretty much all the information we need, and mostly contact information. But we'd love to know the title of the film, when they're intending to shoot, if there's any other key people involved, like the director or producer, and then essentially just. So we have a way to come back to them if something were to go wrong, which rarely happens, but also to see how else we can be of assistance to them. So,
do you guys require the full script of the project, and when do you require it?
So if they just want to shoot and they're just looking for locations, no, we wouldn't require them to give us the script. A location list would suffice. Even just descriptions of the locations, so that would be fine too.
Beautiful.
So yeah,
that's great. And then what is the next step? Let's say I like the location. I said, okay, how much does it cost for me to film there? What will be the next step?
Some locations have given us fee schedules, but most do not. And when we reach out to the locations in the beginning to photograph them and place them in our directory, or if they self-list, we usually have a conversation with them that, hey, you can get anything from, a really small, no budget student film all the way up to, a large television series or studio
it's up to them
feature.
To accept.
Yeah, exactly. Don't feel obligated that you have to have them film on your property. We ask, minimums of you should at least ask, are they insured? If they're, just to make sure that if there are any damages, that those things can be fixed.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And so, let's say I have a schedule. Can I give you a date, or you guys have a date of when is open? What do you guys do? You ask when do you want to film,
Yeah,
or you say these are the days that are free?
We pretty much just give them the contact information for the location
okay.
and let them make their arrangements. Yeah,
Beautiful.
Whether or not whatever the site rental fees are, or if, what the availability of the location is.
Let's take a location randomly. You say you're talking about a dining room.
Yeah.
Is that one that you really like? That is somewhere.
Diners come up a lot. Yeah, especially in road movies. We get a lot of road movies. Yeah. So yeah, diners are very popular, and we have a lot of diners listed in our resource directory.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So then you keep in mind one of them, right? I want to film there.
Sure.
Then you contact, you give me the connection and the contact for that place.
Right.
And then as a filmmaker, I start to send email or eventually call that guy, and we do agree on the day, on the payment if there isn't, and anything else. At that point, do I go back to you for anything? Like, is there a fee that you need to pay the Utah government?
No.
It's like a liability that you need to sign a contract that you are filming there?
No.
Listen, guys, to be clear, this is official.
No, we have it's an absolutely free service, one that's provided for anybody to take advantage of, to be quite honest. So we're always happy to help and just kind of initiate the conversation. It obviously, if there's an issue or something and the business owner or the homeowner comes back to us, then you will hear from us. But other than that,
makes sense.
Yeah.
If there is something going wrong or not fair for the two parts,
correct.
You can step in.
Try and stay out of the middle of it, but when we have the ability to mediate, we do. So,
great.
Yeah.
So I also read somewhere that the Utah Film Commission started in 1974.
Correct. Yeah.
And it's a long time.
Yeah.
So not bad at all. Do you think anything changed from the beginning to here? Is it becoming better and easier?
That's a really great question. It's I've been with the Film Commission 18 years now, which is a long time, and I was actually born in 1974.
That's a good day. I really like that. I'm born around that, and I really like this dates.
Yep. And we, our office, was formed in 1974, but it's not the oldest film commission in the state of Utah, actually. So the Moab to Monument Valley Film Commission was started in 1939.
Wow.
Oh, sorry, 1949. I apologize. They just celebrated 75 years as a film commission. They're the longest running film commission in the world.
That's right.
And that's due to
they
all the westerns.
Film and they started basically.
Yeah. And so they I think our office was modeled after what they were doing and what several other states were doing. It's from the time that I've been there, it's changed dramatically, and we would get calls for all different types of productions, having Sundance in our backyard, for instance. A lot of people think Sundance, they think Utah, they think independent film. So we get a lot of calls for independent films here. But most of the calls that we would get in the beginning were location driven. They think of Utah, they think of snow, they think of mountains, they think of lakes. Is that, do you have a frozen lake? Would be a call I would receive. On
the flat Salt Lake, that is a beautiful location.
or the Bonneville Salt Flats, for instance.
How does it work to film there?
That's a really great question. Yeah, so the Bonneville Salt Flats is a really beautiful location. It's managed by the Bureau of Land Management, a federal entity. One thing about Utah that's unique is we're 62% federally owned and managed, and so between the U.S. Forest Service, the Bureau of Land Management, several other entities, National Park Service, National Monuments, you're working with the federal government on a lot of the public lands. The Bonneville Salt Flats are managed by the West Desert Office that's in Salt Lake. And the person you'd want to reach out to there is their realty specialist. depending on the size of the production, they may require you to acquire a permit and pay a fee schedule. Pay a fee which is based on also on impact, number of crew members, vehicles, that sort of thing.
And that's fair, because if you go there with like 3 vans and helicopters and things like this, you need to pay something to be able to keep it clean.
And they're tasked with, all the federal entities are tasked with earning revenue from the lands they manage. And so that's kind of the gist. But,
absolutely.
But yeah, we one thing that's interesting about filming on public lands is it's changed a bit in the last few years. There was a group, there was a kid, from what I understand, that filmed at a national park, just, camera on sticks, 2 actors. He was running sound and camera. He showed the film in the town outside of this national park. Some of the rangers saw it and said, "Hey, you didn't get a permit, and you should come to us and get a permit. We'll let you do a retroactive one." And he said no. And they said, "Well, you'll never be able to get a permit from us again." And he said, "That's not fair." And so he ended up getting, the case is called Price v. Barr. I think it's about 4 years now since that was decided. The federal judge actually sided for the kid, saying that filming is First Amendment right, freedom of speech. The fact that they were in there not disturbing anyone, working at such a small level, it's the same as anybody going in there and on vacation and shooting their family. And so that was later overturned. Wow. But it took about a year and a half before it was overturned. The pendulum swung the other way, if you will, and it became harder to get permits. But it's now kind of come back to, there's a permit process for, if you're 6 people or less, you don't have to have a film permit. As long as you're not damaging the land, you're not inhibiting any other visitors to the park or the land. You're doing everything that a normal person would do if they're recreating in that area. You don't have to have a permit. From 6 to 8 people, they issue what's called a de minimis permit, which is really just to acknowledge that they're filming there if they need something, on paper. 8 people, greater than 8 does require an actual permit. And but the process has been streamlined a little bit, so compared to before. Usually takes between 2 to 3 weeks for a permit to be acquired through the federal entities. Some say 30 to 60 days. It kind of depends on the area and how much filming they're used to, and then, of course, staff availability.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is something that I notice as well, that is all around the world. It's always a question of timing. Correct. So you need to go as soon as possible, because you will be surprised how many times you can shoot for free or almost for free or have agreements with an independent movies, but the only thing that is required is time, is to go there a little bit before.
Correct.
So last minute shooting is the enemy of everybody, film commission included.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, any project that has, if you have the ability to have 6 weeks prep time as opposed to 5 weeks prep time or 4 weeks prep time or no prep time, that the money you spend in prep will flourish and be 10 times the value when you're into post and into actual principal photography.
1000%.
Yeah.
And so basically, if I go to Salt Flat and I have a crew of less than 5 people,
5 people or less, yeah,
I don't need a permit.
As long as you're not damaging the lands, and you're doing everything that somebody out there would do recreationally.
Should I still communicate with you guys and let somebody know that I'm going filming, or I don't need to do even
You
that?
don't need to communicate with us. However, I always recommend just reaching out to us, because you may, there's an area out there that a lot of people think is the Bonneville Salt Flats, and it's close to the Bonneville Salt Flats. It's actually separated by a dike. There's a sign that says it's the Bonneville Salt Flats, but it's actually privately held by Intrepid Potash, a company that mines out there. And if you were to film on their land, and they're great, they've been very film friendly in the past, but you're not technically on BLM land, you're on private property.
Land.
Yeah, exactly.
And everything changed.
Yeah,
I got it.
So we can help sort those things out for you.
And what are the top 3 services that you guys are asked to do for production over and over and over, just to understand what are the most popular things that you're dealing with?
I would say there's actually 4.
Okay.
So the first one would be, our location library, as we've discussed. The second one would be like our crew and support services directory, which, we can send lists of multiple production designers for someone to choose from if that's what they're looking for, or, seasoned line producers, or, producers or production managers.
Sound recorders.
Yeah,
like
sound recorders. Yeah, anything. And then I would say the third thing would be our film incentive program. That's utilized by, larger productions. However, that's, it's the movie business, right? So, and meeting that bottom line with a film incentive is always helpful. And then the last thing I would say would be, if a project's working with our office, we want to amplify that project. We want to get the message out about that project once it's completed. So we would use all of the power of our social media channels, the press connections that we have to talk about that film.
Regular press release,
So
and then
we do, yeah.
and then introduce some of the movies shot here in this press release to help.
So usually at the time of approval for the film incentive program, for instance, we send out a press release, usually getting quotes from the filmmakers themselves about why they're choosing Utah, general information on, say, their budget or the number of filming days they're doing here, or if it's a notable cast member that we can talk about, or director or producer. But really, it's when the film's completed, I would say that's when, we want to share that message with the world. We also want to make sure that, the films that have been shot here over the years, in our 100 years of filmmaking, 101 now, in Utah, we have, the Utah Film Trail, which is something that we introduced in the 100 years, where we've put markers throughout the state of popular films, filming locations. So people can actually go to the Utah Office of Tourism site, look up this map, and then go to these actual locations where, say, the car jumped over the cliff in Thelma and Louise, or where Nicolas Cage was for Con Air, that sort of thing. So
people love to do these kind of things. Are always interested.
Yeah.
And in the specific of Utah, what do you think is the advantage to film in Utah rather than another state? Do you think there are some keys elements?
There are, yeah. I would say one thing that's proximity to Los Angeles, for instance. It's a short 2-hour flight to get here.
So true.
Works really great for bringing in cast and sending them back on the weekends even.
Absolutely. I did that. So
yeah.
absolutely.
So you understand, yeah. And I would say, so proximity is, if you're filming a road movie and you're not considering Utah, you're not doing it right. We have so many diverse locations that you can wagon wheel out of a town of support, a city of support like Salt Lake, which the other thing I would also note is how turnkey we are for film. You can find any piece of equipment here. You can find seasoned crew. You can find really talented cast for speaking roles. You can, there's some really great casting directors, for instance. Anything that you need. Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but you're right.
Yeah.
Something that I didn't put in my mind, that there are casting directors here that they can help
we have
as well.
multiple casting directors too. So,
and one way to receive this help is through you guys. If I need a casting director,
be happy to send a list. We, oftentimes people are like, "Hey, can you help us with casting?" We stay out of that because that's really the role of the casting director.
Yeah, and complex.
And complex. Yeah, and we don't want to take a job away from any crew member. We want to attract a project here, get them interested, and then get them set with the right people. So,
and how is in the specific you guys helping for crew and cast? So what in the specific, how is gonna work if I need some crew and cast of small role to film in Utah? How you guys are gonna help step by step?
So if it's a cast member, we would certainly direct you to a casting director, whether it was for background extras or for principal cast.
That there are several, more than once.
More than one, yeah. So what we would do is from our crew directory send a list of a PDF of everybody that's listed in there, and just say, here you go. Look at their credits, call them. You'll find the right person for what you need. Same with any crew position. That's essentially, we don't recommend one over the other.
Right.
We have to stay neutral when it comes to that. But,
that's right.
But
and it's fair. It's fair.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
exactly.
it would be like, give me one sound engineer and you will give me one name. It's not fair.
No,
because
exactly.
How did you choose?
Yep.
And so if I need a specific member, let's say a director of photography, then you will send me a list of director of photographers.
Correct.
This list is the director of photographers that they come to you guys and say, hey, can you put me inside this list?
Correct. Yep. It's a self-registry system.
Oh,
so they would list themselves. We have to approve their listing.
Okay.
And that's usually what we do, is look at the credits they've listed and just verify. Or if it's just one, we do require one credit. So,
beautiful.
But yeah, that's we just want to make sure they are who they say they are, and the films they've worked on are the films they've worked on.
Do you need to be a resident of Utah, or not
You
necessarily?
do. Yes, okay. That's the one catch. So residency is a must. We're not trying to get work for other people out of state. Same with the business has to be registered in the state of Utah, has to be incorporated in Utah. So
beautiful.
Yeah.
And now let's talk a little bit about these incentives. This
Sure.
is a big topic and finally are gonna touch. And I know that some people are trying to take all the information are possible. For my knowledge, in the film commissions all around the world, these incentive programs change very, very often. So depend when you're listening this podcast, please do more research, because things may have changed or
Correct.
slightly changed. But for now is February 2026. Change it. Yeah. So in January 2026, guys. So no, actually I will publish this in February, so I was right. So we are in February 2026, and this is the incentives that Utah has at this moment.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. So what we have at this moment, and you're right, it does change. Sometimes year to year, depending on what revenue the state collects. Yeah, exactly. So currently we operate with about $20 million annually for film incentives, with a baseline incentive of 20% and an uplift percentage of 5% to make it a total of 25% for certain projects if they meet certain requirements. That fund is actually broken up into 3 different pools of money.
Okay.
The original film incentive program was actually to go back even further, just for the history of it. Before I started with the Film Commission, we didn't have any sort of rebate. We had a tax exemption, and that was and that still exists. It's a sales and use tax exemption that filmmakers can use to purchase film equipment. It's a form called a TC 721 that they present at time of sale to eliminate the sales tax. That was our original incentive. Not a big one. I think we started with $250,000 or something like that in an actual rebate. I know the first couple of projects to take advantage of that were World's Fastest Indian, which shot at the Bonneville Salt Flats, and High School Musical, the first one. Yeah. And so, and then the popularity of film incentives, throughout the states and throughout the world, really, caused us to see an increase on that. In 2011, we saw a tax credit, which essentially it's fluctuated in different amounts, but right now it's at $6.79 million. That's for projects that spend greater than $500,000 in the state of Utah in qualified Utah spend. That's the other catch, is it's not a $500,000 total budget. It's what they're spending in the state that's of benefit to either tax-paying Utah entities, or like wages, or purchases that are made locally that are subject to sales tax, corporate tax, or income tax.
Yeah. So basically, the total amount of money spent in Utah need to surpass $500,000.
Yes, for a 20% incentive. That's for projects coming out of state into Utah. If they spend, there's another requirement there. So they have to hire 75% of their cast and crew need to be Utah residents.
Okay.
And that's an important piece. You know,
Yes.
we see larger projects come in,
Yes.
maybe just film a couple of days. They meet that spend requirement,
Right.
but they're all out-of-state residents except for a few people.
But also don't be afraid of that, because 75% of cast, even if it's like, oh, 75% of cast, remember that your key cast is the minority.
Yeah,
So your
yeah.
principal actors are 3,
Well,
2, your big names and that. And then
you get to eliminate 5 principal cast from the count.
Here we go.
So it's actually an easier number to meet. We don't include background, but if somebody works on the show, whether it's for the whole run of the show while they're in Utah, or if they're just there for one day, for instance, like say you have a large extras day and you bring in 5 additional PAs to work, you know, to help manage these extras. Those 5 PAs would count the same as, say, a DP the production brought in from out of state.
Beautiful. And I don't try to find shortcuts. It's just a question for me, for curiosity. But
yeah. And I'm
right.
not trying to explain how to game the system.
Absolutely. It's just to clarify all the aspects.
It sounds more intimidating than
Right.
it actually is. So
Absolutely. What if, so this percent that we're talking is not related to the final movie on screen? Meaning that if I have the script and I have 3 days filming with
Correct.
5 actors and then they don't make the final cut, you guys are not picking and saying, hey, we are not giving you the money because they didn't make the final cut. No, you film it, and then it's an artistic choice if it's in the movie in the end or not.
Correct.
Right?
And we're only concerned about the days spent in Utah.
Okay.
So we want to make sure that we're getting the best return on investment for the dollars that are which are taxpayer dollars that are being rebated to the production. They also have to, they have to prove their spend. They have to show receipts to an independent CPA that they pay for a sample audit, and that CPA then vets all of their receipts and determines what their actual Utah spend was.
Okay.
And then it's that amount that would be rebated.
And this person need to be from Utah as well, or not necessarily?
The CPA has to be licensed in Utah.
Okay.
If they're also registered in Utah as a business and reside here, it's a qualified spend that they can utilize toward the incentive. So, but if they're from out of state, they have to be licensed in Utah.
Makes absolutely sense.
Yeah.
Yes. And now, what about that super small budgets that sometimes we call zero budget?
Yeah, sure.
And students.
Yeah.
Can you guys help even a little bit more than just locations? Or is there anything else, just to be clear?
Yeah, so we used to have a grant program, a very small one. It was determined by the state legislature that grants and that sort of thing were not something that we should be handing out. So we don't do that anymore. It was totally legal up until they changed it. But what we do suggest is, there are some groups out there, like for instance, in full disclosure, my wife's their executive director, but the Utah Film Center, which is a nonprofit, they have what's called a fiscal sponsorship. Fiscal sponsorship, for those who are not familiar, is a way of raising financing for your project and utilizing the 501c3 status of a nonprofit in order to make it a tax-deductible donation to your film rather than an investment. And for first-time filmmakers, for people that are making their shorts or just trying to raise something for a really micro-budget film that they don't expect to go anywhere, or it's a lot easier to approach somebody and say, hey, I can give you a tax write-off, donate 10 grand to me, and utilize the umbrella of this nonprofit to, which takes a tiny cut. I think it's like 5%.
Yep.
But then it becomes a tax deductible.
Do you guys organize any shaking hands of these companies or of these people?
No, we just mention, that these groups are out there, and explain what a fiscal sponsorship is.
Absolutely.
There are also a few film groups like also nonprofits like the Davey Foundation. The Davey Foundation is named after Davey Fetzer, who was a longtime filmmaker in the state, a director, writer, actor, really talented guy. Did a lot of stuff with the Salt Lake Film Society, I think he was a manager at the Tower Theater for years. He passed away, unfortunately, at a young age. His friends and his family put together this foundation. And what they do is they read multiple scripts, and they grant usually 2 scripts per year, $5,000 each, and sometimes more depending on what they raise. But to do it, and they're all short scripts, I should mention. So it's a great way for short filmmakers to get noticed, to get some funding, and then they have a year to put that together. So.
Where can people get more information? There is a website or something?
Yeah. So if you typed in the Davey Foundation or Davey Film Festival, part of it is they actually Davey. Yeah, they would be able to find it.
Right.
Yeah.
Should I put Davey Utah or?
No, I think it would just come up.
Okay,
yeah,
beautiful.
Davey Film Festival or Davey Film Foundation, I think also.
And these things are great. Everything works.
Yeah.
Especially for motivate filmmakers to do new project. I can try to do something to apply for this.
Correct.
So this is great. Even I know this mention of tax incentives. And the fact that you can remove it from tax, I heard this so many times, even in Cannes Film Festival when we go in Cannes in Europe.
Yeah.
But
there's groups like Seed and Spark, that's a popular one. Crowdfunding sites like Kickstarter.
That's right.
Yeah. Other ways to raise financing through.
And even Kickstarter, in fact, you are deductible. Is our tax deductible
Correct.
as well.
Yeah.
It would be nice to organize, I think, one party or one night and put together these people, because maybe there are even people from the other side that they say that I want to do this. How can I do it? And they just don't know. You know what I mean? Like company
absolutely.
or corporation. They will be happy to put some money in a movie just for the art of doing this.
Yeah. Well, and there are some folks that have given back. I know to Seed and Spark specifically. I was at an event they held at Sundance a few years ago, and they announced. And I'm blanking on the actors' names, but they donated quite a bit of money. It was like a couple of million, I want to say.
Wow, crazy.
That Seed and Spark could distribute as just random grants.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, for anybody that applied through them for their fiscal sponsorship.
That's great.
Yeah.
And sorry that I interrupt you. Is there anything else that you want to put, or that was it?
No, I think those are the key things for for raising financing. Yeah.
And in the specific for film students, is there anything specific like the government? If you're a film student, I don't require this fee or something like that? Or?
Yeah. So, with permitting, for instance, like the Forest Service, for instance, and some entities like Salt Lake City Special Events, which is kind of our beacon on the hill when it comes to film permits. First of all, it's not a huge fee. You get 3 different locations with that fee. They're able to typically turn a film permit around in 4 business days. And sometimes it's a little bit more if it's a complicated street closure type thing. But they're a really great group to work with. They don't charge students, I believe.
Oh, wow.
They make them go through the process. They have to fill out the permit and everything, but the fee schedule is not charged. Yeah.
And then another question that I heard so many times from young filmmakers and students. Let's say that they write a script for a short, and the scene is in a post office.
Oh,
if a student want to film in the Provo post office, for example, what does he need to do?
That's a really great question, and one that I haven't seen come up. So. First of all, you would want to reach out to probably that post office's manager to see who they would need to speak with, but that may go all the way up the chain of command. I would imagine they would only allow it to happen outside of of their posted hours, but I would also imagine you would be paying somebody to. An employee there at the post office to stay behind and take care of that. And I'm sure it's possible, but there would be a little bit of sleuthing. Yeah,
organizing. Again, last minute, guys get organized, film from before. But do you still recommend that this student contact you and say, hey, how can I shoot in the post office of Provo, for example, in a small town in Utah? Can they contact you, and then you will guide him step by step and see if it's possible or not, right?
Correct. Yeah, we would look into it, and and there are there may be other options for them, that's closed post offices or former post offices that still look like post offices.
That's so true.
And yeah.
And what about if they need to film in front of a monument or a church? Here in Utah, there are so many beautiful churches. Can they do that? Do they need to pay a fee? How does it work?
Depending on the church, if it's, for instance, it's always best to approach that church directly. Filming from the public sidewalk and catching a church in the background, a film permit's determined by where you shoot from. So if you have a permit for the public sidewalk and you catch a church in the background, there's really nothing that church can do.
It's part of the background.
It's part of the background. Yeah, it exists in a public world. So yeah, so as long as you had a permit for that public space.
Right. And then let's remind the official standard way of permit is that the city and Utah as a state have agreed with public numbers, basically, and if you need to film in a specific place, you need to request, like in the street, is a number in a map, and you will need to request the permit specific for that place, fill up the dates and everything. Is that
the time
in the street?
Yes, yeah. I mean, it depends on, and the fees vary from municipality to municipality. Basically, like there are ways for us to determine who owns the property and who the person is or entity that they would have to go through to get permission to film there or a permit. Some cities don't have a permit for if you're completely contained on private property, for instance. Some do. Some counties do. Which is it's not the norm, but if you're completely contained on private property, you're not doing anything illegal, and you're just filming. The owner has given you permission from that property. A lot of entities stay out of it. Now, if you need to come and get a beauty shot or something from the public sidewalk or an establishing shot of that location, some places like Salt Lake, I think it's 5 people or less, 4 people or less. At 5, it becomes a filming event. If you're just 4 people, you're not blocking traffic, blocking the sidewalk, inhibiting anybody. Too. Yeah. And you're recording from a public area, you don't need a permit.
Wow.
Yeah. So, for instance, like a television show, a travel log, something like that comes to Salt Lake and they want to get grand views of the Capitol or looking down on the city, and they're shooting from a sidewalk and it's just a guy with a camera on sticks, no permits required.
That's right. But just trying to go in the specific to try to help somebody that will have some specific questions.
Sure.
But for example, if you do something bigger, like your scene required to stop traffic.
Correct. Yeah.
And if you want to stop traffic, it become a completely different scenario. And you may think, well, I'm in Salt Lake City, so I get the permit from Salt Lake City to close State Street. Well, State Street's not city managed. State Street is actually a state route. Oh, wow. So what they would have to do would be to coordinate through Salt Lake City to get the police there to, hold traffic, to get the permit for filming. But then they'd also have to go to the Utah Department of Transportation and get a permit through them, permission to close the road. And can you drive a person step by step how to do it and what to do it if they ask?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah. And, depending on the action involved, how long of a closure, time of day, all these things are taken into consideration. We worked on a pretty exciting film that's not coming out until 27, in spring of 27. I think it's safe to talk about it now because I want to say it's coming out like March 21st, but it's basically a King Kong Godzilla film. Yeah. Wow. we worked with Utah Department of Transportation. They wanted to shut down Main Street in Moab for 2 blocks in the middle of the day. Actually the morning through, I think 11 a.m., 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. So they could do this huge sequence there. And we worked very closely with the Moab to Monument Valley Film Commissioner, Biga Metzner, but also with UDOT, with Highway Patrol, with Moab City Police, Moab City and Moab City Streets Division, there was also the county sheriff, the Grand County Sheriff was involved. You know, they had to put up signage on both ends of the town. But I think the most important thing was to try and, you know, they talk to all the businesses that would be affected, pay a lot of them for business loss. Not to mention, you know, gathering all the extras and everything else. So, but that was a big deal, you know, and that required
a great organization.
Yes, a lot of organization and a lot of time. I think it was almost 6 months to, I'm trying to remember how long it took. I think we started in December of last year, and they filmed in July.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Got it.
So it was a big deal.
Do you remember the scene? It was like a
well,
chase.
it's not out yet. Yeah. Okay. And I don't want to give anything more away,
yeah,
but it's pretty cool. Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, and I remember that this change also by city to city. In LA, for example, sometimes if I film in certain streets, the city obligate you two police men that you need to hire to put one on top and one on the bottom.
Correct.
Another one require 4, another require 1.
Yeah, depending on the action, you know, and that's usually determined by both the streets department and the police. You know, for instance, we used to shoot Everwood, the television series I worked on 25th Street in Ogden, which is a beautiful location. And there were often times we would just close like half mid-block. You have to also have the proper barricades, which is another thing. And to go through their streets department, you have to present your plan with the barricades. Which have to meet federal standards, which are adopted by the city and the state. But you know, you have to have a certain number of signs that warn people if they're to turn right onto that street or left onto that street, that the road is closed. Not to mention going straight onto that street. And, you know, sometimes it would be a matter of 4 police officers, and sometimes we'd only need 2, you know, depending on what the action was, how much of the street was blocked off. But, you know, we'd usually try and get 4 whenever we could.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
Like, for example, I give you a specific, because the specific I think are always the best.
Yeah.
And I had a movie that I was close to film, so we were looking for some location. There is a small town called... that is about it's the town is called,
is it in Utah?
Is in Utah.
Okay.
Is about a mining town, and then the name I think is a cart of the mine. There is a special engine that push the
Helper.
Yes. Yep. I want to film in Helper, right?
Oh, good.
I want to film.
I filmed in Helper.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So the scene was a detective in a Twin Peaks scenario arrived to the city and want to speak with the sheriff. So they meet in the street, they talked in the street, then they go inside an office, and then the detective follow actually the sheriff in the street. So you need to put camera in the street to see that they're following each other. Yeah. And I was just trying to figure out. I went there to see the place if I like it first of all. And I like it, but immediately I was absorbed from people. They introduced me to the mayor and said, guys, I'm not filming
Mayor
yet.
Lenise. Yeah.
I'm not filming yet. This is if you know, I like it and it get, you know. But let's say step by step, I want to film there. And that is the scene that I need to do, right?
First of all, I highly recommend Helper. That's a wonderful, it's a beautiful place.
Beautiful.
It's unlike,
people are so nice.
Yeah, people are super nice. It's also a very diverse location. You know, they've cherished their diversity too. You know, I mean, there were like 90 something different countries represented there in the mining days. You know.
Oh yeah. That was so interesting. I didn't know that at all. I discovered this actually after on further investigation. You are absolutely
and
right.
they celebrate all of them.
That there were very small community. There was even small Italian communities that ended up right there, and so
lots of Greek and Irish and
Greek people.
Everybody was represented. Yeah.
It's very interesting. If you guys wanna look it up, I think it's a very good story. Helper, Utah, and all the minorities that they end up there for some reason because there was work, and when work was very difficult to find and money was very difficult to make, a lot of different, even country even people from Europe, from different countries of Europe, end up to be there. Today, of course,
and they were a support town for multiple mines,
Right.
and also the train tracks that came through there. So there were a lot of people that worked for the railroad. They don't consider themselves a mining town per
That's
se.
right.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah,
And a very multicultural
Yes,
place. I agree
absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back
Yeah,
to my
sure,
permit.
sure.
I want to go there. And
Okay.
I'm gonna film
Yep.
in the street inside an office.
Yep.
And there are beautiful stores there. There is an art gallery. I remember that was
several.
nice.
Yeah, that's
So-
the other beautiful thing about Helper. A lot of artists have moved there.
Yep.
Revitalized the town, and there's a
There is an old movie theater.
old movie
old
theater.
bowling
There's a
place.
great bowling alley. Yeah,
And there are all these signs outside that are so beautiful because they're typical from, every small town in United States from your
Neon and-
imaginary
yeah.
filmmaking
Yeah.
point of view.
Yeah, and not to mention that it's surrounded by
That's
those
right.
beautiful bluffs of stone. So it's really unique looking. Yeah,
So,
and the people are super nice. So,
reach you.
so if
I'm
you're
ready to film.
you're
Let's
ready to
say
film there.
in August 2026,
Yep.
27 and 28. These 2 days.
So the first thing I would do, as the location person, is once it's established, it's everywhere that the film company needs to be. Is I would approach the city, and Mayor Lenise is fantastic. She's great.
And let's say, just to put
Yeah.
data in this specific
Yeah.
project that
Yeah.
I can give you. Let's say it's a $90,000
Okay.
project. So
Okay.
very, very small budget.
Sure.
Probably 8 people of crew in town
Oh, yeah.
around, 2 cameras maximum.
Yep.
So this is the budget. It's a feature film, but
But they're walking on the sidewalk and not in the street.
they're in the walking.
Okay.
And then there are following in the street.
Into the street. Okay.
Yeah, so
great.
I would like also to show that they are inside the car and
Okay.
follow each other in
and
the
then
car.
the car, there's
So the
action
car-
with the car.
Yeah,
Okay.
the car
Yeah.
need to follow the other car, and we need to show that they're doing this
Perfect.
in the street. So maybe block the street if it's easier. I don't know. Give me some advice.
Yeah. So what I would suggest, let's start with first of all just the permitting for the city itself. Approaching their city manager. What's the process? What's the fee? They have a permit application in Helper. Getting that filled out. Oftentimes they ask, what's the action that takes place? Can you map it out? You would show exactly where the filming would take place, the camera positions, where crew would be, where action would take place, that a vehicle's moving, all of that on a series of maps, essentially.
Yes, and these are not boring details
Yeah.
at all, guys.
Yeah.
Because when you're making a movie, the details are absolutely. The more details you have, the easier will be to go there to filming. This is absolutely a must. So
And the
if-
most important thing is safety, right?
That's right.
So not just for your crew, your actors, but for the public at large, right? So you have a moving vehicle, you have people coming into the street. You have to make sure it's safe.
Yeah.
You also need to control all of that, right? So
Yeah.
that you can see exactly what it is you want to see. You don't have clearances on Clarence coming in, walking out of the store. So what you would do would be you would first talk to the city, get the permit started. They would recommend you talk to their streets department and probably their police officers as well. So you would talk to their police chief or deputy, whoever it is that's handling off-duty police being hired by private entities, like
Okay.
for things
So-
like parades or filming,
Right.
other special
over
events.
there in
Uh-huh.
Helpers, right?
Yes.
I don't need to go to Salt Lake City. I
No,
don't need
it would
to go
be
any
it would
other
have to be in Helper, or it could be a county sheriff's
Okay.
office if the city police are not available.
Right. And can I do this by phone, or
Yes.
I need to be in person there for certain things?
I always recommend being in person, just because you establish a better rapport.
A relationship.
You're gonna be there filming in person. It's important that they recognize you, when you're
You're so
there for
right.
the scout. If you're in the restaurant later, spending money, that's important too.
So if you have a possibility, go there in person. Otherwise,
If you can,
you
yeah,
can do everything.
yeah, you can do most of it online. The one thing you can't do is canvassing. So a lot of places will require notification. So once you've established your date, your time, that there is going to be a street closure, that the public is going to be affected, the business owners are going to be affected. That's when you go to the businesses and you canvass. Usually 72 hours or more advance notice. just to make sure there aren't any issues. Like so and so is moving in that day, you know, and they've got a truck that's they're planning on parking right where you're going to film,
that
you know,
can
those
ruin
sort of
the
things.
filming
Or
completely.
it's garbage day, you know, and the garbage truck's going to come around
Absolutely,
and pick up and make a lot of
1000%.
noise. So those are the things that you
And
have
it did
to.
happen very
Yeah,
often.
yeah, it's happened to me. But those are the things you want to make sure that you you want to talk to people. Somebody has to go there, have in-person conversations with them, make sure there aren't going to be issues, answer any questions they may have. You know, what if I need to go to the store? What if something happens? You know, you always have to allow for emergency vehicles to pass through. There usually has to be, 12-foot lane for emergency vehicles. But the most important thing is just to establish that so they're not freaked out, when you are there filming and you've closed the street. No one's surprised. You may have some restaurants, businesses that are concerned about, well, what about how my customers going to get in there?
Coffee places.
Yeah, coffee places. One thing that was nice about 25th Street in Ogden, for instance, is a lot of the businesses that we were affecting had backdoor entrances. And so if we were closing the front of their building, customers could still go in and out from the back doors. That's not always the case. For instance, with that film I mentioned that shot in Moab, they made signs that said, the businesses are open. Please come to the businesses. You may be held for 30 seconds or 2 minutes, but please, visit the businesses. They are open. Some of the businesses chose not to be open, and some of them they probably paid for business loss. With a smaller production like that, where you're not, you're probably going to have a PA holding,
traffic.
Pedestrian traffic.
That's right.
Not vehicular traffic. Yep. But yeah, the police would be there for that. But yeah, to make it safe, you'd probably have a full closure. When you'd cut, and then when the vehicles were pulling away, you may have police on the side streets, out of frame, further down the road, holding traffic, but then behind camera, rolling with the vehicle or doing what's called ITC, intermittent traffic control.
That's right. That's the most common thing because you can't really stop traffic.
You don't want to, it's like, if you can avoid it.
Yeah. So basically you can do your scene when you know that you're going, you have the action, and then they're going to get the flow of the traffic for a little bit. And then when you're ready, they're going to have action and then keep it.
And the other thing that's great about Helper is that town, the road used to go through the middle of town, the highway. And now it bypasses the town. So you don't have to worry about state involvement closing, the road to interstate travelers. It's a
an
pretty
extra
quiet
road
street.
that goes there. Yes, I noticed that.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's an extra road. So it's even better for that reason.
Yeah.
So going back to my movie, I will contact the film commission. I will contact you and say, can you help me?
Yes.
And then you will connect me with the mayor and go through their permit first of all, and then the local sheriff.
Yeah, and then typically it's a chain of command thing, right? So the mayor or the city manager, whoever we have we also have in all 29 counties, we have someone that's deputized as a film commissioner. Somebody that is, they know their area well, they grew up there. They may represent the area through a Convention and Visitors Bureau or direct marketing organization for that county. But they're wearing a second hat as a film commission. So we train those folks. They take a liaison course class through the Association of Film Commissioners International, and then they also we want them to be able to speak to their area to filmmakers. So what are the common things that filmmakers are going to need? Well, they'll need a place to stay. They'll need a place to eat. They'll need a place to get lumber. If they're building sets, it's all the common things, right? They may need to use a dry cleaner. Collating those resources for the filmmakers in advance, so they're if those questions come up, how many rooms do you have in your county? How many rooms are in this city as opposed to this county? To make sure they can host larger productions. That's their job. So I would most likely at a certain point pass it along, make the introduction to. For Carbon County, for instance, it's Tina Henry. She's our contact there, and she's fantastic. She's worked with several productions, including, Kevin Costner's Horizon, all the way down to Dusty Bluffs, which is a TV or web series that filmed there recently. But that's who I would put them in contact with. She knows our area well. She can introduce them to, people in the neighborhood, and people they need to know. There's a gentleman down there. He's actually a postal worker named Mark, and he knows everybody. He's lived there all his life.
That's so useful.
And
people
he's
have no
the
idea.
guy.
People have no idea. These people are gems.
They call him the unofficial mayor.
Yeah. These people are gems.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
that's
you will
the
have
person
this
you want to
title
get
forever.
with.
It's not like a mayor that you need to finish. This guy is going to be the unofficial mayor.
But Mayor
forever.
Lanice is amazing too.
Absolutely.
She's an absolute
1000%.
sweetheart. Yeah.
And also I want to say is that these little town like Helper, right? They're so artistic focus that I'm sure they're happy to have a small movie, an independent movie, a medium-sized movie to go there and film, because that make the place better.
Absolutely, they get it. They get it. They're revitalizing right now because of the arts. Those buildings were decrepit, were falling apart. There's a gentleman and his wife, Gary DeVincent, and his wife Mallory. He used to own a property here in Provo, and he lost it due to eminent domain. So they were expanding the street. The street would come into where his property was. He was given eminent domain money, didn't know what he was going to do with himself. Went down there, started and found a property to buy. And he's purchased several properties. He's restored them to their original beauty.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if you've seen the gas stations on either side
of
the town. Those are
station.
his. The old hotel, the old bank. That's all his and Mallory's work. Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
And they're wonderful people. I've gone down there and I was introduced to them. I knew Gary actually up here before he moved down there, because he had a really cool shop and a lot of cool old like Pennzoil signs and Conoco and those like the old classic car signs. And
because what I say usually to film students is always try to find a place that is more compatible and they want to be filmed.
They want you there,
because there are a lot of locations that are just practical. You know, it's in and out. They don't want film because they don't have time to stop or to arrange. But places like
where
Helper,
they appreciate it,
they appreciate it because they will use it as a leverage also to advertise themselves, and it's great that this happens. So that means that they will be more open to help you. And so you don't have money to do this, maybe I can help you and do this. And
that's a benefit in shooting in Utah as opposed to filming in Los Angeles,
that's right.
where there's all sorts of filming. It's an inconvenience. They come and park in your neighborhood. They close the street. They're holding traffic, whatever it is. They're jaded there because it happens all the time.
1000%.
And they come to Utah and they're received well. They're welcomed, and people want to have them here. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, and it's novel, So.
Yes. How is to shoot in Provo compared to Helper? Is Provo okay and they movies, or because it's busy with the university?
It's a bigger city. They've definitely had because of the university and both universities really both having film programs. They've had, I'm sure run-ins. I remember hearing a story actually when I was with the Film Commission about a student film shooting a closed bank that was near an open bank and imitating a bank robbery.
Oh my!
But not letting anybody know.
That's genius.
Yeah. The real police were called.
That was dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. The bank employees of the real bank were freaked out. So. It's that's a completely avoidable situation by a call to the film commission.
That's a real story. It's
that
not
was
a movie.
Real story. It was not a movie.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. Like some of the stunts and things that people have tried to pull off without a permit because they don't know they're supposed to have a permit. So
absolutely, 1000%. Yeah. And then in Helper, let's going back to Helper. Yeah. Will be a point where there is a green light. So there will be a point that I communicate to you, and they said, okay, so am I all good for the 27th and the 28th of August?
Correct.
Are we good?
Yeah. So the permit is an agreement, right? Once you receive that agreement, the city has a copy, you have a copy. you can present that copy if anybody from the public or say the police, if they weren't already involved with the street closure, came up and said, "What are you doing here?" You know, you can show that permit and say, "Look, we have this agreement with the city."
Beautiful. And that's the final step that you need to do.
Yeah.
Before.
And usually your location manager or location person they would be the ones that would hold that permit.
Usually, in case you need to change the date at the last minute, do you need to go to the process from the beginning, or is just few adjustments?
It's dependent on the place, you know. But
dependent by the place.
I mean, you'd have to, if it was a bigger scene, and you know, you'd have to re-canvas the neighborhood, right? All the businesses, let them know that it was changing to a different date.
Everybody involved, they need to know that.
A lot of times with the city, you know, if they understand, if it's something like beyond your control, weather, sickness of a, you know, say your director gets sick or your main actor or whatever,
cannot do it.
Yeah, you know, that happens sometimes. Schedules
absolutely
will change. Yeah,
right. And I know that it's more than 1 hour, guys, but stay with me because this episode I really like it, and we have a few questions that are really, really good for all the filmmakers that are listening. So another question that I really love, because I didn't
really get into the incentives as much as I should have too. So
we can go back there as well.
Yeah.
But this is for me a very important question. Sure. What are the misconceptions and mistakes that usually productions and producers do when they approach the film commission?
Sure.
So basically, is a version of what not to do.
Yeah, sure. A lot of first-time filmmakers don't understand what film commissions do, and they think that we're there to help them find financing. That's not something we do. We can give suggestions, you know, about fiscal sponsorship, grants, things like that. But
the office is not made for that.
We're not made for that, yeah. And we don't really want to get in the middle of that, you know. So that's a common misconception. Sometimes people come to us and go, "Hey, I have this really great idea for a script, but I'm not a screenwriter. Like, can you find me a screenwriter, you know, or can you find me a producer, you know?" And you know, and we try and be very kind, but you know, we say, you know, if you're hiring somebody like a producer or a screenwriter, you should, you know, expect to have to pay them, but they're not going to be as sold on your idea. Why don't you try writing the script yourself? You know, get it started, something like that. But yeah, we're not as involved on the developmental side,
right,
as some people think.
You guys are not a production company.
Correct.
With the open door to ideas and
Yeah.
script. Absolutely, this need to be clear.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, exactly. I'd say that's probably the biggest mistake. You know, I, as I mentioned before, you know, locations kind of drove our, you know, initial calls. Now it's all about the film incentives. I mean, we have to have the locations too, but if we don't have the film incentives for certain size productions, you know, whether they're financiers or their studios are going to become whole, you know, especially with the state of theatrical releases or streaming payments, I would say that's one of the biggest changes is, you know, that I talk a lot about what qualifies, how the timeline of a film incentive. You know, it's a lot more finance based than it used to be.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And also, do not wait the last minute.
No.
For permit. This is also one of the biggest mistakes.
Yeah.
Try to do as far as possible from the date when you want to film.
Absolutely.
So
the more time, like we mentioned earlier, the more time you can put into pre-production and your development, pre-planning, really, you know, getting as many crew or key department heads to the location to see, so everybody's on the same page. So when you do get there in the actual, you know, principal photography, it goes as seamlessly as it can. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And do not try to film there and do the permit later, because for me it never worked.
No.
Don't film
we've
first
helped
and
projects
then ask
that,
permission later.
You know, back when it was whether a project was recreational or commercial, right? And before the advent of, you know, really revenue from YouTube, for instance, you know, which kind of was a game changer. There were a lot of people that would just go out and they're riding their motorbike or whatever, you know, but then they filmed it, but then they start earning revenue through YouTube. there were people with the BLM that were paying attention to that, especially if it was a recognizable place, right?
That's an absolutely important point. Remember that even if you are doing a YouTube video, if you are later generate a ton of money, somebody will come back. I guarantee you. And if you don't have a permit,
and if you're trying to sell your film now, to be fair, the BLM in cases like that, they understand that, you weren't trying to generate money when you filmed it, right? It was a recreational thing. It happened later, and they a lot of times would give the benefit of the doubt and give the filmmaker an opportunity to get a permit retroactively, right? But case in point, if you're filming something that you want to sell, that you want to distribute, that you want to find a market for, you want to make sure that your errors and omissions are clean, which is the E&Os are basically, before anybody's going to buy your project, they're going to make sure that you have clearances for all the people that are speaking, all the locations that are filmed at. They want to make sure that they're not buying a liability.
And for experience, I'm telling you, the distributor will let you sign something that you take all the responsibility.
Oh, yes. So if there is an issue, then it would come back on you. Yeah.
So a distributor will let you sign that 100%. So they will ask you, do you have the clearance on everything? You will say, yes. Can you show me? Yes. But anyway, he will say, beautiful. Can you sign this paper that you take all the responsibility, even economically, if somebody come to the distribution company? Because first of all, they're gonna, if you sell to Warner Brothers, to Red House in the Hills distribution, they will go to them first and say, hey, you need to pay because you didn't pay. And so they will come back to you, and legally they will be right to ask you money. So, but to be fair, let's say that I really have a small budget for an independent film, and I want to do it anyway. Can I go to film there because I don't know if I will be able to distribute it? And so do the production, film in this location in the middle of the desert or somewhere that I don't bother anybody.
Right.
And then I try to distribute. In that case, because it's a miracle.
It's
a miracle.
Exactly.
I found a distribution that want to give me some money.
Hence, it's a revenue generating thing for you.
Before taking the money, can I come back to you or Film Commission and say, hey guys, I shot an independent film. I didn't know I will make money, but actually there is a possibility that I will distribute the money, and these are the location. Can you guys help me to make it 100% legal?
We've helped filmmakers with that same exact situation.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and we put them.
So
in
it's a
contact
very possible
with,
scenario.
It is.
Don't be afraid.
I don't recommend it doing
this.
Yeah, but there is a way to retroactively get a film permit.
That's right.
From most of the federal entities.
Beautiful. So the rule is this: when you have time, it's always saving headaches and money if you organize everything on front.
Now,
that's the best part.
The other thing we should mention, if you were out there filming
and something
were to happen and you didn't have a film permit, and the emergency services are called or the ranger's there, you can get in a lot of trouble and pay a very hefty fine.
Too.
Yeah, you could be arrested. Yeah. So it's not worth the risk.
It's not worth the risk.
It's always easier to ask for permission than ask for forgiveness.
Yes, that's a very important point. It's not only a question of money sometimes. You can be arrested if you don't have the permission and something happened. You don't know if something happened because it's like a live event. You have not total control. So things can happen every single time. Like in normal life, you do an accident with your car. In normal life, you didn't plan that. In a movie, you can do exactly the same thing. And if you make an accident when you're filming and you didn't have a permit, voila, you go to jail.
Oh, yeah. I mean, case in point, Sarah Jones. And, it's a tragic accident that happened in Georgia. They were filming on a train bridge without permission, with explicit, actually no permission. They were told not to.
Wow.
And
they went anyway.
They went anyway. Yeah. The location manager said, I'm not there. They, called it day 0 out of whatever. And they had an actor out there, a really prominent actor too. So
that's
unfortunately,
incredible.
the AC person died, Sarah Jones.
Is the worst case scenario.
Worst case scenario. Yeah.
And I remember that there was another episode in Russia where they were not supposed to be there because there was an avalanche and there was a bad weather.
Oh.
Do you remember that one?
Yeah,
And it
yeah,
was
I remember hearing about that.
director
Yeah,
all died.
yeah,
That
yeah.
was crazy as well. And
Yeah.
again, they told them not go there to film, and they
Yeah,
filmed
and
anyway.
they did anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty clear, guys.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to end it on that note.
Not at all.
That's
Not
horrible.
at all. And this is also a question that I'm interested.
Yeah.
Technology advanced so fast and
Yeah.
it's changing so many business, even AI and all of these kind of things.
Right.
Do you think film commission one day will change? And did you guys ever spoke about AI generated image that are so similar to some backgrounds sometimes, but they're not the same?
Yeah.
What is going to happen if will be one day that we can AI generate a lot of locations that are famous?
Yeah.
But then AI is there. I didn't capture that there.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
where is the law? Where is that you ask
Yeah.
permission, or even
That's a
like
good question.
telling you, oh, I didn't film that in Moab. It's
Yeah.
AI generated.
Yeah.
What do they need to prove? If you
Well,
say, oh, you need to go
yeah,
to
yeah.
show the permit. Oh, no, it's not the place. I
That's,
generated.
yeah, I haven't really wrapped my head around all of that.
But we are going there.
But we are going there, and you know, I'll just say this: when I first started with the Film Commission, and we would get together with other film commissions, you know, as part of the Association of Film Commissioners International, the AFCI, they would do cineposiums in the fall and, you know, location expos in the spring. We'd get together in the cineposiums, and they'd have, you know, filmmakers, producers, studio executives come and talk to us. There were classes, all sorts of things, and it still goes on. I remember, and I'm blanking on the director's name, but I remember coming to us and saying, you guys, with this new technology, with green screen, you're out of a job. You guys are done. Like, people are not going to location anymore. They're just going to film. They can go and they get, like, you know, base shot and you know, and then just plug it in afterwards. And, you know, there's something to be said. And I've seen this with the television series Yellowstone when they filmed here, for instance. If you're on that set, those logs were not foam painted to look like logs. They were actually lodgepole pine. That table was handcrafted. That's, you know, the lettering on the governor's Coke bottle glass window was hand painted. When you take that effort into the craft, right? It brings out, it emotes a greater experience for the actor, and you get a better performance.
1000%.
And it's, you sense it as an audience member. There's a reason why that show took off like it did. It was the #1 ad cabler, you know, or ad-driven cabler, because of the quality of the craftsmanship that went into, from every single line written by Taylor Sheridan to, you know, the authenticity of the acting, because of the set design. So,
1000%.
yeah. And the fact they're in an actual beautiful location that looks like Montana.
1000%.
So.
And these are even facts, because if you think about sci-fi or costume movies like Lord of the Ring, that
Right.
most of the things are practical.
Oh, yeah.
That movie is
Yeah.
forever.
Oh, yeah.
They just put it back in the movie theater, and it can hold so much, because
You can sense that
you
as
can send us
So
so
yeah.
much. That
So
is out
so
there.
I don't think that we're gonna, you know, I remember this director telling us, though, we're done.
Yeah.
People are not going to film on location. They're just going to film in front of a green screen. And sure, there are some really great green screen movies, but even with, you know, the Godzilla Kong films, for instance, they make the point of going to actual locations, because the rest of it is CGI, right? And so if you're doing it all CGI, there's a flatness, there's a 2D effect that happens, you know.
1000%.
And so
1000%.
yeah, it's and we can sense it. Whether we can put our finger on it and point it out,
I think I even go farther to say that I think everybody can sense it, but only filmmakers can explain that feeling.
Sure.
Because the common person that go to watch a movie and is not an expert in movies, he can sense it as well.
Yeah.
He will not able to explain you what exactly he sense, but he sense it.
Yeah.
I would say that maybe there are even two different approaches to do a movie. You know, we're gonna use digital background and green screen. And today there are so many things. There are even LED walls. I don't know if you ever use it. That
Oh,
they
yeah, of
move
course.
with the camera, so they map.
We have a few here locally that, there's a television series called Yo Gabba Gabba Land, reprisal of Yo Gabba Gabba by Apple TV that shot up at the film studios in Park City. They had a 25-foot tall by 70-foot
curved
LED
that
wall
was even
volume
on the
screen.
top.
And it was amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And but there's a craft of programming all of that too, right?
That's right.
And
I think it again is a direction that you will take in the beginning, in front, and say we are gonna go that direction. You are filming The Mandalorian, and that everything is digital, and you have places that they don't exist, and of course you want to go that direction. And if you want to do something that is more attached to the place where there are native people involved, or a local story that need to be organic. Somebody's been kidnapped, or is a detective story. The details that you will have filming there, it's priceless, seriously.
Absolutely.
And it's not the same. And I understand that right now this AI, new technology of creating videos, is in the hands of everybody. But if you want to create something artistic that you're proud of, this organic way is still the best way.
And we just did one of our first AI projects that we gave incentives to. It was a short AI generated project that they still were paying people to program it, and prompt it, right? And it still took time and effort. It obviously wasn't as costly as had they done a full animation, but and it's definitely a tool. There's something about, and I'm not saying this about this one because I haven't watched it yet, but there's something about AI generated imagery that it's not that exciting. It's like, there are some great things. It's getting better all the time, but it's hard to watch for long periods of time, in my opinion. There's something that turns me off to it.
I think, and I think a lot of things we're going to discover in the future with more and more and more involved. Yeah. But again, for me, it's an approach that you have in the beginning of
realist painters. When the photograph came out, were like, "Oh, what am I doing? I just ruined my life." Becoming a painter, and we still cherish original paintings. Right?
Absolutely, so, and also again, depend by the direction you go. If you do painting an apple to try to make the apple as realistic as possible, photography did it better. But if you are Chagall and you paint like cows that fly and stars that they come down the earth,
or surrealist, or expressionist,
your imaginations that go on canvas, and so you try to use the technology the best you can. Absolutely, and. Another thing that I want to ask you, just because we have you here in person, so you can share this. What are the most memorable moments? Do you have few stories that you can tell us?
Sure.
Of being the film commission here in Utah.
I just thought of this the other day that so we worked with some really big productions over, and those are the easy ones to talk about, right? One, for instance, and I'll just bring this up, is it was a film called Need for Speed, based on the video game that's shot in Utah.
Very well.
Aaron Paul and Scotty Waugh, the director of that. He was the son of and forgive me, I don't know his father's name, but his father was the stunt coordinator on Bullet, the Steve McQueen film.
Yes.
And so was a huge name in the 60s, 70s. So
and the movie's great. We need to mention this as well. I really like it.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah, it didn't do well, in theaters, but
as well. It did well, but not as well.
Yeah, not as well as it probably should have. But scouting with those guys, and they were characters. The location manager, Patrick Mignano, excellent guy. They called him the Hunter. He was Clint Eastwood's location manager for several years. And Tim Moore, who was also he was the production manager for and line producer for Clint Eastwood after $1 Million Baby, for every film after that. Both great guys. We spent 3 days just scouting mountain scenes because it was all supposed to take place off of I-80 in Utah initially. I think we've sold them on the film, or to film here. They're stoked. And we're taking them to the airport, and Scotty goes, if we're coming to Utah, we should be showing Red Rock. Back to square one, and we scouted Moab, of course, where they ended up shooting, and that was actually a lot of fun because I was happy to show Moab, and we showed them some really great places up here too, but the impact I think was a little bit more.
I'm gonna rewatch the movie. So these stories help to be to the movie to be watched again, and I really want to watch it again now.
Yeah. So I mean, it. And I think it did bring a lot of production value. Scotty was absolutely right. Instead of just seeing green and it screamed Utah.
Great movie.
Another story I'll share is I worked on this movie when I was kind of beginning of my career at the Film Commission. It was Area 51. It actually never made it to theaters, but it was done by Blumhouse Entertainment, Jason Blum. Shortly after, he had not made it yet. But while we were on the scout,
I want to go to see this movie as well now.
Oh yeah. Apparently, it got put on a shelf. It didn't end up happening. But I was scouting with Jason Blum and Oren Peli while Paranormal Activity is first coming into theaters.
Oh wow!
And they are becoming millionaires overnight. It was amazing. That was a really cool experience. And they were lovely people to work with. Jeanette Brill Volturno, who's the and I think she's on like Project Greenlight, and she's a really cool person, great producer. She was kind of who I was interacting with the most, and we became friends. And she came to me years later with this script. I read the script, and it was amazing. But one thing I think I helped with, because I wanted this thing to film in Utah, right? It was a really great page turner. Definitely something that you could tell it was just going to be a hit, right? But they needed to shoot in March, and they needed a lakefront property, and they needed the grass to be green, and they didn't want frozen, they didn't want snow, and as you know, March is not a good time of year, early March in Utah, to avoid snow, frozen lakes.
You never know.
Yeah, you never know.
It's impossible to know.
And I told her as much. I said, Jeanette, I love this script. I would love to have it here. However, with your actor availability and the timeline you need to go, you cannot shoot this in Utah and get the look that you need. I think she ended up shooting it in Alabama. The film is called Get Out. Yeah. It was such a disappointment to not have that.
That's
especially when it blew up, and what a great film.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And visually, especially.
Yes. It wouldn't have been as visually stunning, at least for the exterior scenes, had it not shot where it did in that time of year. And when you watch the film, you can tell it's like the season's off. It's not as sunny and
you're so right.
Yeah.
Now that you mentioned, you're so right.
Yeah, but it would have been snow here.
That's right. It would be different vibe.
Yeah, a totally different vibe. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. And now I'm very sad to arrive at the last question, but we gotta do a last question. Yeah. And my last question is, if you could give one gold piece of advice to a filmmaker outside Utah to consider Utah as a location for his movie, what will be?
Well, so one of the things we do, especially with the project that we've that utilized our incentive program, is we do kind of a wrap meeting with them to see how things went with their producers. And the number one thing that I get back, the number one piece of feedback that I get back, these are people that have filmed all over the world, is how talented our crew base is here. And I'm not just saying that. And there film commissions all around will say we have talented crew, but in Utah we truly do, and they care. They're not jaded. There's almost like a chip on their shoulder. They're not LA. They're not New York. They want to make sure they prove themselves to these LA and New York people. Right? They've chosen to live here. They're top of their craft, but they love Utah, and that's I think that would be the number one piece of advice I would give to outside filmmakers if they want to experience Utah, because that's the number one thing that we get back.
And as my very small experience to film here, I totally agree. I will say, more specific for me at least, that the crew in Utah, they're unbelievable good human beings.
Yes. That's another
that
thing.
this is so important. They are so lovely. They are so careful.
You're not worried about meal penalties or the next break or what craft service has.
And I know that
there were some of them that probably were concerned about those things, but
there is the artistic point as well. But also remember that before everything, director, actor, cast, and crew, we are all human beings.
Correct.
And here it is incredible how nice are the people. I really, really, really notice and make the filming much, much easier and everything less stressful.
Yes.
So I agree 1000%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much to be here.
Well, such a pleasure.
It was very big pleasure. I know that this will be a good episode because I love the topic.
I hope it's not 3 hours long.
No. It's a little bit more than an hour, but I think people that, especially filmmakers, will enjoy all this information so much. Okay. We have a little of exchange gift, I think.
Cool. Yes. I brought this for you.
Oh, great. That's beautiful.
It's one of our Utah Film Commission hats. It says Film Crew on the side.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
I will wear it 1000%.
Awesome.
From now, actually.
Yeah,
I really like it. Thank you so much. Yeah,
you're very welcome. Yeah.
And then there is something that
cool.
that we give to everybody that was here.
Awesome.
And is a reminder that you are a part of this podcast. That I'm gonna put the date.
Perfect.
In the American way, because that in Europe is different.
Oh yes, yeah.
Is in Europe is smaller to bigger. That make totally sense. I don't know why you guys put the month here and then the date of the day and then the year.
But this today would actually be the same both in America and Europe.
That's right. Yeah. In this
oh no,
case,
I'm so sorry. No,
January,
my apologies.
No,
Yeah. No, I'm incorrect.
For today we are actually January 1, 6, 2026. That is a little bit different. Yeah. And so
awesome.
this is a reminder, that you did this podcast with us. And
that's really cool.
And I'm sure that if there are questions and more people asking, I may even ask you again to come and say, hey, I have actually some people, or there is another filmmaker in the studio. Yeah. We have 3 ways that you want to talk about this movie that is shot in Utah, and it was a big experience. So you guys helped so much. So please come
Happy
back.
to come back. So
please.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this, and this was great. Really,
awesome.
thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.